everyone, welcome back to the Coop with Meijer Hatchery, where we talk all things poultry in hopes of inspiring crazy chicken ladies and educating future flock owners. I'm Kendra.
And I'm Jeff. And today we're launching the first episode of a year-long series, A Year with Chickens.
We dedicate one episode per month to this series, covering what to expect when raising a chicken in that particular month. We'll cover everything from the day you set eyes on that fluff ball of peeping joy to laying and beyond. This month, we're going to talk planning, prep, and everything you need to know before you begin. And now it's time for your poultry pick of the week. Jeff, what did you pick this week?
My first breed, the Rhode Island Red, is our poultry pick of the week. As the name suggests, they were developed in Rhode Island and is the state's official bird. They've become a familiar dual-purpose breed, laying up to 250 large brown eggs. Hardy in all climates and an excellent free-range choice. Do you have Rhode Island Reds in your flock? If not, consider adding some today.
Now, this is the kind of stuff I wish someone would have told me when I started, but I didn't necessarily start out raising chickens in a very traditional manner. But first, I have to know, Jeff, tell me the moment you first knew you were going to raise chickens.
I would have to say that was when I was at supper 20 plus years ago. My wife turned to me and said, "Hey, let's get some chickens for our children to raise for 4-H. Have them take it to the county fair." That started a long time ago, and we grew and grew. My wife got the chicken bug, and we went from 10 broilers to 350 chickens, cull ducks, geese, broilers at one time. And we raised everything in between during the years, from wood ducks, phoenix, guineas, all different things. A lot of fun, a lot of headache, a lot of learning. But it was really good for our kids. My wife really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the eggs. Kendra, what's your story?
I actually got a call from a relative who had some friends. They were retired, they were looking to travel, and had planned their first trip in the few months. So they were looking to rehome their flock, and they asked if we wanted them free of charge with all of their supplies. So of course we said yes before knowing anything, and we got in the truck. We actually took a trailer with us because we had no idea what we were doing. Went down, met the people who were super nice. They told us everything that we needed. They gave us food, they gave us grit, they gave us oyster shells. I mean, they had everything set up for us. It couldn't be a more perfect opportunity and people to learn from, really. So they gave us a crate. We packed up the chickens and some straw, and they actually rode in the back seat of the truck 2 hours home. And then we got home and realized we had nowhere to keep said chickens. So we slapped together a coop pretty quickly. It looked like a dog house. And then we had like an old fence for a dog that went around it, kind of like a run, which now looking back was so not safe because it was typical chicken wire, which we did have predator problems later on. But at the time, that's all we had and that's all we knew. And so we put it together, and that was the beginning of our chicken experience. And of course, those 3 golden buffs that we had turned into so much more. That following spring, we got our first batch of day-old chicks from Meijer. Those layers turned into broilers, and then those broilers turned into some rangers, and then that turned into some more egg layers. So as you can see, chicken math added up pretty fast, and then it eventually led into other poultry types. So we're up to probably about 90 chickens at any given time. And then in the summer, we do a couple batches of meat birds. And then we now have 4 bourbon red turkeys, and we also have a handful of guineas. So escalated pretty fast, but I enjoy having them. And of course, what kind of farm doesn't have chickens, right? So that's how we started, and there's no end in sight, really. How did you begin with chickens? Did it start with chickens, or maybe you started with turkeys? Or did you get loud guineas and think, why did I start this poultry endeavor? Whatever your story may be, we want to hear it and share it on air during our Poultry Pride segment. Share your story today by clicking the link in our show notes and submitting your poultry-related story to be read on the Coop. Now, you could start out on a whim like me, or you could do a little research and be prepared. The first thing to check is city ordinances, which I honestly didn't even know existed until I started working for Meijer, because I've only mostly ever lived in the country. So for urban chicken keepers, some cities have limits to how many chickens you can have on your property. They may require a permit, and some also restrict you from keeping roosters. Oh, and if you're a California resident, you may be restricted by the current Newcastle Ban in effect. In short, Newcastle disease is incurable and transferred through direct contact with bodily fluids, most typically feces. The USDA and California Department of Food and Agriculture are restricting movement of live poultry in and out of areas affected. Now, we probably haven't shipped poultry to Southern California in about a year.
Yeah, at least.
And I checked the CDFA website, and this is the latest statement they've released as of January 29th from this year from their state veterinarian, Dr. Annette Jones.
While virus levels in the region are greatly reduced, VND continues to impact backyard flocks inside the regional quarantine area, as evidenced by the detection of more than 20 new cases this winter. DNA from these recent cases suggests that they are all related, most likely from a single source, with further spread due to bird movement, lax biosecurity, and commingling at feed and pet stores.
So to be clear, there is the quarantine zone, but there is also a no mail zone. We have a really great map on our help desk that I'll link in the show notes. If you're new to ordering chicks and are curious as to where the affected areas are located, or just want more information on the Newcastle disease, you can find them in the show notes below. Now, this is a common question we receive a lot. How many chickens do I need, Jeff?
Well, you can never have too many.
Yeah, they're definitely social creatures. So there's a lot of times people will chat in and ask if they can just order one chicken. And that's typically not what we recommend, but it's nice because Meijer Hatchery does offer a low order minimum of 3 chickens during April through November months. So if you do live in an urban area where you're restricted, having that lower minimum can definitely still help you achieve your chicken dreams. When people place orders, they also ask, do they all need to be the same breed?
You do not need to order like 3 Rhode Island Reds. You can order 1 Rhode Island Red, a Barred Rock, an Easter Egger, or cream leg bar, whatever breed. You can fill the box with however many you want, one of each. Have a colorful flock. Or you could have them all look exactly the same by getting all Rhode Island Reds.
And we really have customers that kind of spread the gamut. There are those people that will order, 100 golden buffs because they're looking for egg production. But if you're looking for just a backyard flock, it's nice because you can pick and choose the breeds to create your own assortment, essentially. Getting different colored eggs and different types of bird personalities. And then obviously the different colors of birds I don't know what the word is. Be the
crazy chicken lady.
Be the crazy chicken lady or the inspiration for your neighborhood there. You could start a new craze. Another question we get when people are mixing breeds is if they'll all get along. And I typically tell them, yes, in general, all chickens get along, but the pecking order is a natural occurrence. So you will see them pecking on each other a little bit to establish their dominance. But once they kind of get that order in line, they're completely fine and usually do well. The only instance I've ever personally ran across is if you have one chicken that is really funky looking, doesn't look anything like the rest of your flock. So say you do have all Rhode Island Reds and then you get like a white silky. Sometimes if you have a bird that sticks out amongst the rest, they'll get picked on a little bit more just because they look different. Jeff, have you ever had that case with your 300 plus birds?
Not with me personally, but I've heard stories. I've talked to a lot of people over the years working at Meijer, and I've heard from people that there are times where you will have certain breeds that just pull away from the rest and they divide themselves and they don't get along. And then other times they all do get along. It just all depends on the flock.
Absolutely. I think that's something people don't really realize is each bird really does have its own personality. And a lot of people probably think, oh, they're just chickens, but they really do. And you'll come across the bullies in the flock. Then you have the real sweet chicks. You'll have some that are friendly. So it really just depends on what you get. It's not always the breed type. Sometimes the personality of that breed differ a little bit.
Happens all the time.
So that kind of leads into our next question. Not only how many chickens do I need, but how much room do you have to keep chickens? If you live in an urban area and your coop is a little bit smaller, you're restricted by city ordinances, that room may change compared to how much room you have, essentially, if you live in a rural area. So if you have a big barn out in the country, obviously you're going to be able to get more birds. The typical rule of thumb that I usually tell customers is inside the coop, you're looking for 2 to 3 square feet per bird. Out in the run, if you're going to have a run versus free range, you're looking at about 10 square feet per bird in your run. I personally, with my flock, we do have a coop. They have plenty of space. It's an old barn that we've converted into an entire coop. And then they free range completely on their own with the turkeys and guineas. So I don't have a room restriction, but definitely I hear all the time from customers in urban areas, I can only add 3 birds to my flock and that's the max I can have. And I always recommend getting less birds. They're going to be much more happy and much more comfortable. You'll have less risk of disease if you're giving them more room to roam within the coop.
Totally agree. You're right.
Jeff, do I need a rooster? I know this is one of your favorite questions.
It is. And every time I'll tell them, well, if you want to be woken up an hour before your alarm clock, get a rooster because the thing will crow before you want to wake up. Do you need a rooster? No. Do you like the look of having a rooster in your backyard? Yeah, they're gorgeous. Some of the roosters that we carry are exquisite. They are the most beautiful things that you could ever look at. So if you have the area, if you are in a location where you can have them, that's the biggest question. Most cities, nope, can't have them. If you live in the country, yes, you can. They do help in protecting your flock. A lot of people have reported that the rooster protected from a flying eagle or owl that was flying overhead. The rooster let everybody know that there was danger. When you have a stranger come into the property, the rooster is the one that goes out and protects the flock. If that stranger is you, that can be a problem.
Oh my goodness. I have a funny story. I'll try to keep it brief. So I'm the one that typically feeds and takes care of the chickens. So our roosters are super friendly. I have multiple. They're very friendly to me. I can usually work out in the yard without having issues. But we took a vacation and we asked our neighbor, who's probably in his late 80s, to come over and feed and let out our chickens, which he always happily agrees. We forgot to tell him this year that we have a couple roosters in the flock. So he came over to do his duties, let him out, and that rooster tried to protect the flock from the stranger, our neighbor, and attacked him essentially, and did bruise up his legs. And so when we got home, we always bring him like a little gift if he takes care of our property for us. So we got home, unpacked, took his gift over, and he opened the door and said, "You guys did not tell me you had a rooster." And we're like, oh my gosh, it didn't even cross our mind. And he lifted up his pant legs and the bottom of his legs were completely bruised. So when we get questioned all the time about having mean roosters, if you were to ask me if I have mean roosters, I would have always said no. But in the case now, with our neighbor and having strangers over to our property, they can be aggressive if they feel threatened. And obviously with him inside the coop and in their run, trying to feed them and in the rooster space, he did his job as a rooster and tried to protect the flock. Now, if you ever have anyone come over and take care of your property while you're gone, always tell them you have a rooster and to bring a stick just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
So another question we get with roosters is, Can I eat the eggs if I get a rooster? And the answer is yes. You can absolutely eat the eggs. A lot of times I tell people when they're considering a rooster, think about why you're raising chickens. If you're raising chickens just for eggs, you don't need a rooster. Hens will lay eggs naturally without a rooster. If you want to hatch chickens, then you would need a rooster because they would fertilize the egg, which then you could incubate or put under a broody hen and hatch out into chicks. So there's another reason too, whether or not you would like to have a rooster or not. Regardless of having a rooster, even if the eggs are fertilized, you can completely eat them. I know there's always horror stories you hear of people cracking open an egg and having a baby chicken inside. That's not the case unless you leave it under your hen for a week or two and then go out and try to take the eggs and eat them. If you collect your eggs on a daily basis or every couple of days, you'll never run into that case. We've had chickens now for 3 years and I've never cracked open an egg like that. So don't be scared by the horror stories people will try to tell you about roosters. They really, really can be a joy on property. And like Jeff said, I can't see us not having one now. Since we do free range our chickens, they've saved my flock from hawks multiple times. So they are a great alert system. You'll hear them triggering off in the backyard and you'll look out the window and you'll see everyone heading for cover into the back of the coop there. So overall, I would say if you've never had a rooster and can, definitely give it a try. So another question that we commonly get is how much does it cost to raise a chicken? Jeff knows all about this considering he had $350 to pay for.
Okay, the cost to raise a chicken greatly is all over the board. You have the cost of the waters, the feeders. You have the cost of where you're going to keep them. Do you have to build a coop? Do you have to buy a coop? Or do you have a shed that will work? Do you have space that will work? Do you have a neighbor who wants to get rid of some of their stuff and they're giving that to you? There's a lot of different factors there. Then the cost of the feed itself. You have some areas of the country where the cost of the feed is fairly high due to the fact that you live in a city, or if you live out in the country where there's farmland, you can get feed fairly cheap. Or there's the fact of what kind of feed you're going to get. You can get the normal feed, which you can buy at most stores, or you get the organic, which is 2 to 3 times the cost of a normal chicken feed. So it all depends on what you're trying to get.
So I live out in the country and it's nice because I live next to a lot of Amish neighbors. And so I'm able to get my feed just around the corner at a mill that they have. It's relatively inexpensive and they actually have added some new options that are organic and non-GMO feeds. So it's nice to have a little bit of variety there. Meijer Hatchery also offers feed. We mix our own line geared towards the nutrition that poultry needs. And we also offer the different lines of a standard feed, organic, non-GMO, and so forth. A lot of times if you live in town and have to go like to your local Tractor Supply or Family Farm and Home or something like that, you may run into costs that are a little bit higher just because they're a bigger brand store. Now, not only do you have feed to take into consider, but also treats. If you like to give your birds mealworms, things like that, those can actually be a little bit expensive. I just went and bought a bag the other day and I think it was like $9 for a little tiny bag of a mealworm mix. So now I've been researching how to grow my own, which I think I'm actually going to do this summer. So that might be an upcoming podcast episode. Stay tuned. But you have feed, you have supplements. So if you are not allowing them to free range, you're going to want to provide some grit for them. You'll also sometimes provide oyster shells for added calcium. There's things like that you'll have to consider. And then overall, just how many chickens you have and the type of chickens. So there's 2 variables there. Obviously, egg layers you're going to keep around for a lot longer than the meat birds, but the meat birds do have a different feed schedule than an egg layer would have. So you also have to take that into consideration. So maybe we'll put together a formula for you a little bit later in the episode. But here we just kind of want to raise some questions for you to consider before you begin. What am I planning to do? And what is the purpose of raising these birds? like we started with started pullets, which was a breeze compared to day-old chicks. So we did slap together a coop, but if you're getting day-old chicks, you also have to factor in the cost of a brooder.
What you can start off with is getting out of your storage a Rubbermaid tub. Basic one that is 2.5 feet long by 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. Any one of those will work. You need a bag of pine shavings to where you're putting in about 1.5 inches of pine shavings on the bottom. And I emphasize pine shavings, not cedar. And the reason why with cedar gives off an odor that will cause respiratory problems for the baby chicks. So you need the heat source, you need a water, you need a feeder, you need the pine shavings, Rubbermaid tub. That's all you need for brooding.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a lot more to consider, but it also does take a little bit more of your attention. So when you're first getting those chicks, getting your brooder properly set up and heated, monitoring your chicks for the first few weeks to make sure everything is going well. And then once you really get into it, sometimes like we've built a custom brooder for us within our barn so that we can raise chicks at multiple ages. So we can have a new batch of layers in the spring and prepare for a new batch of meat chickens. So we have like a double brooder space set up, and then we have a separate coop inside of our barn away from our other chickens where we can transfer them as they continue to age. So kind of like a rotational setup. But when you begin, don't worry about that. I know Pinterest is very enticing and you want the nice looking coop and the fancy brooders and all of that. But really when it comes down to it, the basics suit just fine. And I really encourage you to use those basics because you might do it once and realize you don't like it. Or you might do it once and it might spur a ton of ideas on what you can do and do better. So it will only help you grow starting out with some of those basic elements. And then that kind of takes us into, okay, well, what if I have an existing flock? So like, say for instance, in my case, I had the 3 started pullets that I was given. Now I want to add baby chicks. What does that look like? So regardless of how old your chicks are, you can get baby chicks at any time. You just need to wait until they're about 6 weeks or fully feathered until you integrate them. And again, the pecking order is very real, especially when you're introducing new poultry into an existing flock. However, there are really good ways to do it and healthy ways to make sure that integration goes smoothly. And we do have a blog post that is really great. I send links out to it all the time when I'm chatting with customers. There's some visuals in there to show how to do it. And I'll link that blog post in the show notes. That is a super good article to take a look at. So I think that covers most of our general before you begin questions that we commonly hear. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think we covered all the questions for now. But if there is any other questions that you have, please reach out to us in our exclusive Facebook group, Inside the Coop. We'd love to keep this conversation going.
Now, if you're walking the dog or driving to work and thinking, I have to do what? Don't feel overwhelmed. You'll learn along the way. Yes, I highly encourage you to do your research, but you'll always run into oh crap moments. When I was gifted my 3 grown chickens, we knew absolutely nothing. And now look, we have 90 plus chickens and have moved on to other poultry breeds. Experience is truly the best teacher, and I think anyone who farms or homesteads would agree. Want to have all your Before I Begin questions answered by us, the hosts of the Coop? Join our exclusive Facebook group, Inside the Coop. This group is specifically for our podcast listeners so we can keep the conversation going off air. Connect with your community and let's meet inside the Coop today. Find the link in our show notes below to join.
Now that we have some of the general chicken-related before you begin questions out of the way, let's talk ordering chickens. One of my favorite moments when talking to customers is their amazement that we ship chicks. So here are a few things you should know before you begin your order with Meijer Hatchery. First, Meijer Hatchery ships chicks across the United States year-round, all year, all 12 months. Each poultry type has its own order minimum, and you can mix breeds in orders to meet that minimum, just not poultry types. It has to be standard chicks with bantams, but it cannot have ducks or turkeys or guineas. It has to be only chickens in the order, or it has to be only ducks in the order. They are not mixed together at all.
And if you're looking to brood chicks in April, which is common, then it's best to get your order in as soon as possible to reserve the breeds you're interested in. It's very easy to place your order online, or you can always feel free to give us a call. To order online, either sign in or create an account. Browse the breeds we offer and make your selections. For those that face strict city ordinances, all of our standard chicken breeds come sexed, so you can choose all females if you wish. Once the breeds have been added to your cart, select Proceed to Checkout. Our system will automatically find a common available hatch date for the breeds you've chosen. You can either opt for the first available date, or you can choose a later date from the dropdown. Now we'll go through some of our suggested items that we offer, but are completely optional.
Okay, optional items include the Marek's vaccine. Marek's disease is caused by an easily transmissible virus that can lead to organ failure, paralysis, or even death. Unfortunately, it is contagious from wild birds to your flock. While there is no treatment or cure, having them vaccinated is a great preventative measure taken to ensure the health of your flock. Next, we offer the Vital Pack or the Vital Pack Plus. Both are a mix of vitamins and electrolytes you can provide to your chicks in their water. It gives them a healthy start and is a great way to hydrate them. The Vital Pack Plus is specifically designed for meat birds, ducks, and geese. We also offer Grow Gel, which is an edible gel material that you rehydrate and feed to your chicks when they arrive to provide them with amino acids, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and probiotics. Lastly, you can choose to participate in our Meijer Meal Maker program, where you are provided a free chick in hopes you give back to your community.
Once you've checked any of the optional suggested items you'd like to include with your order, proceed to checkout. If you have any questions or concerns throughout the checkout process, feel free to use our chicken chat feature on the website to talk to a live representative. Once your order is complete, you'll receive an order confirmation email. We hatch and ship chicks on the same day. From the date you select at checkout, your order will arrive in 1 to 3 business days via the United States Post Office. Live chick orders will ship to your local post office, where they typically give you a call for pickup. And that's it, a brief overview of ordering chicks so that you can be prepared when placing your future Meijer Hatchery chick orders.
We want to give back to you so that you can give back to your community. It's our Give Back to Give Back program.
Jeff, that's what we do, but that's certainly not the name.
Okay, fine. It's really called our Meijer Meal Maker program. Opt to participate when you place your order, and we'll provide you 1 free chick with your qualifying chick order.
Our Meal Maker breed is randomly selected each week and added to your order. All we ask is that you donate to your local food bank, a neighbor in need, or a charity of your choice.
So what are you waiting for? Contact Meijer Hatchery today to add a Meijer Meal Maker to your next order. It's already that time of the show, time to share some poultry pride. This story is actually a Meijer Meal Maker story that was previously shared on our blog. But it is such a good example of what the Meijer Meal Maker program can do for our customers and their communities that we thought it was worth sharing here as well.
Luke is a young poultry enthusiast who participates in 4-H and shows broilers. When placing his 2 orders of chicks for his 4-H project, he chose to receive a free Meijer Meal Maker chick included with each order. Luke raised his broiler chicks with great success, taking 3rd place in their meat class at his local fair. Luke's county fair had a limit on how many broilers he could enter, so he picked the best options from the group. Since he had extras, he had to decide what to do with the remaining birds from his order, which included his free Meijer Meal Maker chicks. After sending his remaining broilers to processing, Luke chose to donate the Meal Maker Cornish cross broilers as well as 2 additional broilers to his local food pantry. The pantry was so thankful to have fresh, locally raised chickens to serve their patrons. Luke and his family sent photos to us. You can find them in the blog linked in the show notes below. But one of the photos is a thank you card from the food pantry, which reads, "Dear Luke, it was so nice to meet you yesterday. Thank you very much for your generous donation of 4 chickens to our community meal center. We will make yummy chicken casserole and barbecue sandwiches. I hope you come to CMC again. Blessings to you and yours." That is such a great story, Luke. Way to go.
Congratulations, Luke. That is a great way to give back to the community, and you are a shining example of what we're trying to accomplish.
Don't forget to submit your poultry-related story online for a chance to have yours read on The Coop. We'll be sure to post a link in the show notes for you. Thanks for listening to The Coop. Be sure to subscribe, and if you'd be so kind, drop us a review.
See you all next week.